integrity, dignity, respect. The President of the United States has long upheld these virtues as a standard bearer for democracy around the world. Since the latter half of the 20th century, the U.S. has been viewed as a leading international superpower. Presidents commanded respect among their allies and fellow leaders and enforced justice around the world.
Not peace at the expense of freedom, but both peace and freedom here in this hemisphere, and we hope around the world.
But with the 2016 election of Donald Trump, this respect has begun to change. Our leader's image has deteriorated across the globe. The dramatic decrease in American international clout begs the question, what is Trump doing to American foreign policy?
From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first.
In an address to the United Nations in September 2018, President Trump presented his worldview to his fellow leaders for a mixed response.
In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true.
He reaffirmed his radical departure from U.S. world leadership.
America is governed by Americans. We reject the ideology of globalism, and we embrace the doctrine of patriotism. Sovereign and independent nations are the only vehicle where freedom has ever survived. And so we must protect our sovereignty and our cherished independence above all.
2 years into his presidency, Trump has remained true to his America First foreign policy. Yet the primary consequence of this stance is diminished foreign countries' faith in American leadership. According to the Gallup report, Rating World Leaders 2018, the median global approval rating of the job performance of U.S. leadership across 134 countries stands at a new low of 30%. The U.S. is now on nearly even footing with China and barely more popular than Russia. Meanwhile, median disapproval of American leadership worldwide outstrips approval by 13%.
That decline is the single biggest shift we've seen in the history of our tracking. And you might ask a follow-up question, which is, was this about Trump specifically? And you might say yes, because we actually tested Trump's name specifically, as we had done with Obama in the past, and they highly correlate.
An October Pew Research Center poll illustrates the precipitous decline in American favorability and influence. As explained by Richard Wyke, co-author of this report.
We've seen some highs, we've seen some lows over the last decade and a half, and truthfully, in this survey, it's mostly lows. We see that President Trump remains unpopular internationally. We see that ratings for the United States remain lower than they were during the Obama era. Most of those we surveyed say that they don't think the U.S. takes into account the interest of countries like theirs when it's making foreign policy decisions. Many say that they don't see the U.S. doing as much to address global problems as it has in the past. And a lot of these criticisms of the United States are most common among some of our best allies and partners.
Scholars collectively agree this dramatic negative reaction is closely associated with the withdrawal pursued by President Trump and has disastrous implications for our allies around the world.
The glue of America's allies, our security relationship, our economics, are something that that President Trump will flirt with totally disintegrating.
Including Asia, where there's a recognition of the need for more. They like the U.S., they want the U.S., but are not as confident as they were even a year ago that the administration is looking out for them.
I hope no permanent damage to the U.S. reputation and ability to lead has been done, but I do worry if this should go on much longer.
We visited the University of Maryland to interview Professor Fetter, Director of National Security and International Affairs at the Office of Science and Technology Policy under Obama. He firmly believes that America's prominence in the world is not merely a costly obligation, but rather an allegiance for mutual interests and benefits.
Well, what's very important is to realize that the United States, can't do it alone. The disappearance, the breakup of the Soviet Union, the disappearance of the Warsaw Pact, the lack of a classic enemy has, with it, decreased the perceived need for these alliances. that ignores what is really our enlightened self-interest. It's in the U.S. interest to maintain this system of alliances. It's in U.S. interest to contribute to the security of other countries.
As Americans, we are collectively accountable for the actions of our government and their global ramifications.
46 million Americans voted for Donald Trump, knowing about those views and his personality. And that is what is most disturbing to me.
We live in a preeminent superpower whose relevance extends to every part of the world. Yet, recent research consistently suggests other countries are uncertain of the posture of the U.S. on the world stage. The global impact of everyday Americans cannot be understated, as the leaders we elect make policies and decisions which affect the world.